Ketogenic diets are really popular for weight loss these days, but what happens to muscle and strength when you combine keto with strength training? Today I'm going to introduce you to ketogenic diets, how they work, the benefits, and what the latest research says about what happens to muscle as well as strength whenever you combine keto with strength training. I'm Dr. Elise Brown. I'm a scientist who studies how exercise helps to prevent and slow the progression of diabetes. Ketogenic diets are typically characterized by limiting the amount of carbohydrates that you take in every day to less than 50 grams a day or less than 10% of your total calorie intake. And the whole point of a ketogenic diet is to try to shift your body into ketosis, which means your primary fuel source is fat instead of carbohydrates. So you burn more fat, and your body produces more ketones, which are an indicator that your body has shifted over to fat as its primary fuel source. It usually takes about 2 to 4 days for your body to transition into ketosis, but it could take longer depending on several different factors. Your metabolism, how active you are, different types of fasting can help kickstart ketosis, and then it also depends on whether or not you were on a high-carb diet before you started keto. If you have diabetes, keep in mind that ketosis is different than ketoacidosis, even though they sound similar. In people with diabetes, diabetic ketoacidosis happens whenever insulin levels get too low and ketones build up in the blood, which makes the bloodstream more acidic, and this can be life-threatening. The ketogenic diet has been tested in people with type 2 diabetes. There was a 2022 meta-analysis that included 8 randomized controlled trials, and that's going to be the gold standard study design for testing intervention effects, and it included 648 participants. After 3 months of keto, there were significant reductions in A1C and body weight. And at the 12-month mark, there were improvements in triglyceride levels, HDL cholesterol, and also reductions in the amount of diabetes medications that were needed. At this point, there's not enough strong evidence to recommend the ketogenic diet in diabetes, but there's been some positive findings so far. Keto is also effective at weight loss in the general population, and there are several reasons why this might be true. The first is if you're taking in more protein than you typically do, then you're likely going to be satiated for longer, meaning that you're going to feel more full after a meal. And also, protein has the highest thermic effect out of all the macronutrients, meaning that more calories are required to process protein in the body. Ketosis itself has an appetite suppressant effect. You're also going to have a higher rate of fat oxidation while in ketosis. You may have a higher resting energy expenditure, meaning that you're burning more calories at rest. And there's also going to be water loss. In people who do strength training on a regular basis, even though the ketogenic diet can be beneficial for fat loss, it's been shown that when strength training is combined with keto over 8 to 12 weeks, there can also be losses in muscle mass. Now, part of the reason that the muscle size may decrease, it could be related to the water loss that I mentioned earlier. Carbohydrates are stored in our muscles as glycogen, and when we start doing a ketogenic diet, we start to deplete those glycogen stores in our muscles. And glycogen binds with water. So as we're depleting that glycogen, we're also losing water. And so it could be this water loss from the depleted glycogen stores that could be shrinking the muscles. There was one study that found an increase in muscle size after 11 weeks of doing keto and strength training, but that second measurement of muscle size was performed 1 week after carbohydrates had been reintroduced to their diet. A second explanation for potential muscle loss is ketosis can cause a decrease in insulin, which is great for metabolic health, but insulin also plays an important role in protein synthesis. So that means building and maintaining muscle mass. The third potential reason for potential muscle loss during ketosis is what I mentioned earlier about the appetite suppressant effect of ketosis. So if you're not feeling as hungry as you typically do, you may not be taking in enough calories to support muscle maintenance and muscle building. What needs to be researched is looking in to see if increasing protein intake in conditions where it may be difficult to take in as many calories as you typically would because of the appetite suppressant effect. But this can be tricky because too much protein can actually decrease the amount of ketones that are produced, and this throws off ketosis. Now, when it comes to performance, meaning what happens to muscular strength and muscular power when you combine keto with strength training, there was a review in 2021 that found that it didn't really seem to matter either way. It didn't hurt performance, but it also didn't help it. Now, this could be helpful if you're doing exercises that are more body weight dependent, like pull-ups. So you could be losing weight, which makes it easier to do pull-ups, but not necessarily affecting strength. Now, the longest intervention that was included in that review was 3 months. So we don't know what happens to muscular strength and power if you combine keto with strength training for over 3 months. It's important to note that there haven't been any long-term studies done in this area, so we don't know if there are any potential safety risks if combining keto with strength training is done chronically. And if you have any health conditions like diabetes, make sure that you first speak with your doctor about making any lifestyle changes, like changing your diet or changing your exercise habits. Thank you for watching.